Landlords and letting agents face new EPC rules in 2 weeks. So we have spoke about this a bit before on the podcast, how they're splitting the assessment of energy performance with new builds, and then there's retrofits, which they should have done for years because they just blanketed the same kind of methodology for both build types, and obviously that's not fair, particularly when it comes to carbon emissions and stuff like that. So they have done so. So I used ChatGPT to just give us, and I also got ChatGPT to verify all of this stuff. So there's no hallucination here. This is straight from the articles. So what's changed? Updated EPC methodology as of the 15th of June 2025. We're recording this podcast on the 13th of June 2025. So this is just about to come in. Introduction of RD SAP 10, the biggest overhaul in a decade, delivers more accurate usage reflective EPCs, though it may increase assessment costs. So our EPC surveyors have already come to us with this and said it's going to cost us £10 more for an EPC assessment on a typical sort of Victorian terrace. So it's not crazy different at that level. Mandatory valid EPCs for all let properties, residential and commercial. From April 2025, it's illegal to let any residential or commercial property without a valid EPC. So yeah, we know that. Anyway, the minimum rating you need for now, still only Band E required. Band C deadlines have been officially scrapped, meaning Band E remains the legal minimum for rented homes. But that doesn't mean the forecast has been scrapped. So just bear that in mind. So proposed EPCC by 2030, which is in the consultation stage in government, is to say that all new tenancies must reach a Band C by 2028 and all tenancies from 2030. And we've spoken about this on the podcast before. It's just political rhetoric. It's absolute nonsense. There's no way they could make this happen. They turf out millions of tenants. It would cost over $1 trillion to the private sector. We don't have the trades to do it. It's just not going to happen. We can't upgrade all homes to EPC of a C. But what they could do is relax EPC methodology for retrofitted homes to make it easier to get an EPC of a C. So they can it's like what they do with the CPI index to make it look like we've got lower inflation. Just take a couple bits out, and then make it easier.
It contradicts the renters reform, because if you can't kick a tenant out, how are you going to do all the changes by 2030?
Oh, you take all the walls out and the flooring out while they're still in there, Stu. It's easy.
Give them a reduced rent. You'd stick a tent in the garden and just say, "Do you mind just giving us 3 months while we come in here and go back to brick?"
It's just not going to happen. It just won't happen. But I think they're going to make it easier.
It's a mood point. I mean, everything we do. How many have you bought and gone, right, let's leave it EPCE? Everything we buy in all new tenancies and all new landlords, buy a site to improve it. I mean, great idea, by the way, guys. Last week, one of our HMOs we're doing. When you buy a HMO and you've got a long garden and it's just annoying, right? What you got to do? You got to maintain it. You got to, rip it up, slab it, or put some AstroTurf down. My Sparkies the other day, brilliant. So we designed the L shape, but we've rushed it through from buying it. We're sort of 5 weeks in now. Electrics and plumbing are in, and we're trying to put solar panels on, but the loft and the ridge beam's not been really, because I've tried to push the head height up. It's the smallest HMO I've bought, but we've kept all the sectional depths low to get as much head height, which was my original brief. But because we can't put solar panels on the roof anymore, so we're going to carve the 2/3 of the garden off. We're going to basically weed protect it and then make a fucking solar field. It's perfect, literally. So we're going to lift them off the ground a meter. The whole thing's in the sun all day, and I'm going to create my own power plant, which is great. So when you're a landlord trying to do a good job, trying to run your OPEX costs for zero, why would you not spend 8-10 grand on putting a few batteries in and solar panels and putting this up to an EPC B or an A or whatever you can get anyway?
Yeah.
The south. I know it's not as easy in the north when you've got 70 grand buildings that.
Yeah. It's harder in the north.
It's not worth doing it.
That is what I fucking hate about the EPC target, that the mandatory target is discriminatory towards geography. Yeah, like if you're in the north, proportionally, I could spend 10-15% to get the solar that I'd need on there against the asset value. Down there, you might be spending 2-3%. So you could pull that out of your mortgage equity nice and easy. You can't up here, so it just doesn't. It doesn't fly. It's never going to happen. It's political rhetoric. That's why it will remain in the consultation stage, I predict, in perpetuity. Is most likely what's going to happen. But let's just touch on the last bits because there's some penalties here as well. So EPC metrics overhaul by 2026. So EPCs will shift to a home energy model, assessing heat retention, heat systems, and smart readiness. The A to G scale may be updated. So why it matters: accuracy and upfront costs. Landlords may see higher EPC assessment costs and more rigorous energy evaluations. Again, our EPC assessors have come to us and said it's an extra 10 quid per EPC. So it doesn't seem crazy at this stage. Compliance essentials: invalid or expired EPCs can lead to £5,000 plus in fines and voided leases. prepare for the future, staying ahead of the curve by targeting Band C now may offer long-term savings, grant access, stronger tenant appeal, and bank-friendly ratings. But again, that doesn't account for the nuance of asset values across the country. So that's that on EPCs. I'm not sure how that's going to work with development sites. There's one thing getting an EPC rating for an asset that's already built and is rentable. It's a whole different thing doing SAP calcs from the start on a conversion project, and I'm not sure how it's going to play in there. Hopefully it's easier to get D and C ratings on these new buildings, because it could be a proper chew sometimes.
I do think there needs to be exclusions to some specific properties, because there's some properties which you just cannot upgrade to that. It's a bit like getting Fred Flintstone's car. Another car analogy. Sorry, Dorian, you're missing out on this. Getting Fred Flintstone's car and trying to push it through an MOT in modern day, and them going, well, there's no fucking floor in the car. The wheels are stones. There's no seat belts. There's no flashlights. This isn't going to work. And then you take it into Ford garage and they put a couple of seats in there, put a windshield in there, window wipers, make it all electrics. But you're not allowed to remove the stone wheels because they're listed, right? So the braking's not going to work. So it doesn't really work. Like, you have to have a more bespoke approach than just a blanket. This is the most blanket rule for everything so broad.
That's what they need to change. I love doing this because we can sort of redesign the whole political agenda for the UK. But what they should do is actually give you you should be able to do 2 grades up. You should do 2 grades up. So if you're an E, you should try and aim to get a D or C. So where you are in the country means if you've got a shithole, a bit like dating, it's going to upgrade 1 or 2 more. Yeah. If you've got a D, if the cutoff is a C and you've got a D, you need to get to a C. If you're an E, you need to move up 2. And just so if you're a listed building. No, I think C will be wherever the cutoff means, wherever the threshold needs to be.
My building's a C. What should I do? Yeah, you're right, a C. Don't worry. Just if you're an E, you've got to get up to a C, but just 2 grades up.
Well, no, if you're an E, you should have to get up to a D. Maybe so you have to make 1 improvement, and it should run out when the tenancy runs out, because then you can make a decision whether you actually want to redo the work and relet or sell.
But then you'll get some fake tenancies, won't you? You'll get a tenancy for 50 years.
We'll use AI for that. We'll sort that out with a different product. But the actual moving people in, moving people out, I think they should stay as long as they want to stay because the renters reform. And when they decide to move out, they have to give a minimum of fucking 2 months notice. This crazy, stay for a day and then give you 2 months notice. Then you can make that decision whether you're going to market it and sell it and let it be someone else's problem because it doesn't work commercially for you, or if you're going to relet it, the government could give you 1 month's fucking rent for you to do the work as well. That could be another grant.
With EPCs, that there's a natural free market, like almost regulatory response. Like when it comes to health and safety, that's different. Health and safety, you got to get that right because you could kill people. Like that's fair enough. You got to get health and safety right. But energy performance, if I build a house that's not very energy efficient, then people they're not going to want to rent it for the value I want, and they're not going to want to buy it for the value I want, because the energy markets are going to determine how efficient that property is. I don't need a regulator to tell me what standard I must meet. And I just don't know why EPC has become such a politically hot thing that's causing so many bottlenecks in our costings and all those kind of things for houses. There's natural regulation in the free market. Energy prices will determine the value of your asset if you don't up it.
There's things that a tenant can't do. They can't make they can't take the holes out the wall and fix them. But ultimately, if there's a massive tenant choice, then they can choose where they want to live. But the demand is so tight, they have low opportunity to choose. If they need to live somewhere, they've got to buy your shitty building with holes everywhere that's costing them a fortune to live.
If you think about that logic, and I agree with you, like in terms of quality, that's a different thing, and like in terms of amenity for tenant. But with EPCs and all this other stuff, the more the government gets involved, they try and solve this problem that you're sort of saying there, like what's better for tenants. But then they cause another problem, which is increased asset prices. So then it's harder to get on the housing ladder because now we're all trying to meet EPC A and all this bollocks. So it's like, pick your poison. The government, the more it steps back and let the free market regulate itself through commercial incentives, that's just always the best outcome, except for health and safety, because you can't have people skimping on steel sizes because they want to save a bit of money. That's got to be a regulatory requirement. Yeah, I don't really think about that. I just don't think they should have fucking this mandated EPC target.
It's because every other country is performing way better than us at producing energy. So it's like we're kind of like exposed in the European stats that we're just super inefficient, and that's because a lot of these locations, like you got I think like the Nordics are like the most efficient, but they're building like timber frame brand new sheds, and to take them down or refit them is not that difficult. But you chuck them into, you know, like for an example, Westminster Abbey, and be like, right then, champs, get your fucking expanding foam out and make a mess of that. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, but Jack, that's you've said a pretty extreme example there to paint the analogy, and obviously that sounds mental, yeah. But it is also mental on these old Victorians where you've got solid brick build up. You put insulation on them. Now your bricks can't breathe. You get all these sweating issues and mold build up. So you have to put in all these extra provisions, and it's just cost and cost and cost and cost that's getting passed on to the homeowner or onto the tenant, and it's mental. A Victorian building, you know, they're going to last way longer than these timber frame houses. So where's the benefit there? Do you want a building that's going to last way longer, or do you want a building that's just going to be slightly more energy efficient now, and you have to rebuild it later anyway? That's going to probably cost you more in carbon emissions and all this other stuff. It's like it's not done well enough. It's
construction. What is it? The energy performance of the actual construction of it is construction is the largest contributor to greenhouse gases. So. I mean, that's yeah.
They focused all the time on green energy, some nuclear plants and green solar and wind. They can burn the energy how you like because it ain't really affecting anything at the back end.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you go and subscribe to the Ground Up Podcast.